Hi guys, Ben here. So today I want to talk about something that has been requested and it's also been on my mind a little bit. So let's talk about copying. So when it comes to, art in general, right? Copying is something that is quite like serious. And I want to explore that topic a little bit. So we all know like plagiarism is when you try to exactly copy someone else's work and then you pass it off as your own. But I do think that this topic requires a little bit of discussion. I will be sharing some personal stories about my experience with the whole copying thing. But before that, I think it's important to mention a few things. My first point is that right now we live in a super media saturated world where everywhere we look, like there's some piece of content or media out there. Like when you wake up, the first thing you do in the morning is like, you look at your phone and there's videos, photos, gifs, articles. There's so much content that constantly gets flooded into our vision, into our minds. And sometimes our inspirations could come from very similar places because of that content. Also, because we live in such a media saturated landscape, I think it's important to see how things were like in the past. Because let's say you are a photographer, right? And you want to get inspired. Back then, you would have to buy a book, buy some magazines, borrow stuff at the library, watch certain shows, rent a tape maybe and attend events, I guess, right? So back then, people's like pools of inspirations can be quite separated and different, but nowadays it's a little bit nowadays it's a little bit tricky because you could get inspired from the same viral video as someone else. There could be a new K-pop music video that comes out and you're like, oh wow, I want to explore uh that color combination or certain themes that was over there. And you might have a bunch of other people that might also come across the same thing and also be inspired by that. So that's an important point to just keep in mind. Now, my next point is about trends, tropes, and theme. So we've all seen photography trends, right? When people want to do those like sparkler shoots or shoots with like fairy lights, oh yeah, I just got this, it's like super nice. Or I guess like what other photography trends are there? I'm not too sure. You guys can like leave a comment below. Yeah, and like I said, photography tropes, right? There are lots of people who are inspired off of Wong Kar-wai films, and they like want to follow the trope or they want to explore that trope. And the thing with trends and tropes is that I think that it's really good exercise for photographers to try out or for creatives to like try out. I don't think it should be like, oh, it's not unique, like oh, this one they just copy that one only one. I'm like, no, like you could, in fact I feel that it's a little bit more challenging to have your own fresh twist or to add a bit of your own style into these photography trends and tropes. And I think that it's perfectly okay to be following or trying out these trends. So with these two things in mind, I just want to talk about some personal experiences that I have had. This one was like quite a while back. I actually like got accused for copying someone's like shoot. All right. So to add some context for this, right? It was a location that was in Singapore, and once in a while there's certain pop-ups or like decorations or just certain temporary structures, especially in Singapore, right? We always have these little art events here and there. And it was at one of those structures. Basically, like I wanted to shoot with a model over there, and this model told me like, oh yeah, this other photographer shot me there before. And I was like, oh okay, cool. Just make sure we use a different outfit. And I had a concept in mind, playing off of two models wearing like complementary colors that fit the like structure thing, that the art structure thing that was built. And after I did the shoot and I posted it, I didn't even know who this like other photographer was, but like I found out from a few people that that photographer went around to like tell people like, oh, this person go and steal my concept, they stole my idea. Ugh, I'll let my work speak for myself, that kind of stuff. Like it was a little bit dramatic. So I messaged that photographer and I was like, hey, like what the fuck? But like in a nice-ish way. I think I was kind of nice, but I was a little bit pissed off as well. So in the end, the photographer was saying like, oh, you used the same location and the same model and you went for the same theme, which was pastel. And I was like, okay. Yeah, I'm like, okay, was that copying? Because yes, I did use the same model. I did go to the same location. But I told her that like, look, we both had our own takes on the shoot, and their version came out very differently from what I did. So I told that photographer that we have very different versions of like the shoot, because what that photographer did and the editing and the treatment to the photos is completely, even the direction, right, is completely different from what I was doing. The photographer brought up like, oh yeah, you shot like pastel as well. I'm like, look, okay, the location is a pastel theme location. Lots of other people also went there to shoot, and guess what color combination they went with? They went with a pastel color combination, and my color combos weren't even like that, like pastel, like the whole blue, purple, pink kind of thing. I was using a lot of yellows as well. So I was very annoyed about it initially, because I'm like, look, like location and a model is not a concept. And if we were to show people like the photos that like we took side by side, right, I'm pretty sure people won't see like that much of a connection. It will be like, oh, was this a shoot that y'all went down uh together, and you're like, because like I do photography jams once in a while, and I do meet other photographers to do collabs or whatever, right, and we come up with similar, like we come up with a concept together, and the model will like, and then we go and shoot. But for those things, like the models are wearing the same exact clothes. For this accusation that I got, the model was wearing different set of clothes. There was two models. The concept was playing off of like each other's monochrome complementary colors, and the editing and everything was totally different. So I really feel that like that's okay. I'll talk about like how I feel about that later on. Okay, so another accusation that like I got, which was like actually I think it was a few months ago. It's like last year, towards the end of last year. So I did this shoot with this modeling agency that is by the water at Coney Island. Okay, so again, water, like half submerged water shoots is quite a common photography trend. Lots of people do it. You go on Pinterest, it's all over the place. And in Singapore, we have limited space. So Coney Island is a very popular spot that photographers go to. I'm not saying that it's a unique concept. I'm not saying I came up with that concept at all. It's just a photography trend that I was trying out. After the shoot was done, after I uploaded everything, I started getting comments on it, which were like, why don't you tag the original photographer behind this? Oh, such a unique concept. You should tag the original photographer behind this. And I was just like, I'm the original photographer behind this. What the fuck? So I did some internet CSIing, and I found out like who the photographer they were talking about was and everything. And when I saw that photographer's profile, I was like, like I've had chats with these photographers before, because the Singapore creative scene is really small and everyone knows everyone else. So when I asked the photographer, hey, what the fuck? It was a lot more nicer, because that photographer, like we've chatted before, and we're like all right with each other. The photographer basically told me that like they were all right with it. They didn't see any issue with what was going on, and they didn't think that I did anything wrong. So I was like, okay, so why are the models making noise about it, right? So I went and messaged one of the models, and I was like, dude, what the fuck? And basically he was like, oh yeah, you broke the artist ethics code, and like you were copying us and everything like that. And I'm just like, okay, what part of it was me copying them? And then they said that, oh yeah, we uploaded our stuff first, and you did a water shoot that was red theme. And I was just like, oh my fucking god. Okay, let me explain to you why, aside from half summer shots being a photography trend that a lot of people do, it's not a unique concept by any means. Okay, it's not. All right. Okay, but let's just put that fact aside. Okay, why do people like to use the color red when they are doing half submerged shoots? Okay, especially if you are at like the beach, like you don't have any other obstructions. It's just blue greenish water and then blue skies. Why do people use red? Because color theory. Duh. Okay, so I got pretty annoyed at that, and I was like, all right, I shot at the exact same location, and there was a rough red theme going on 1 year ago. Then they were like, so what? What does this prove? Then I was like, so this technically proves you guys copied me? And then they were like, by what logic? And I was like, by your logic. And they just finished it off with, it was a rhetorical question. You didn't need to answer that. And I was like, fuck, you know. But yeah, so those are the personal stories I've had relating to this. And I want to talk and explore about it a little bit more and not just be like negative and like, hey, fuck them, fuck them, I'll pass away kind of thing, you know. So I feel that like I feel that photography trends, photography tropes are okay to do. And if you are inspired by these trends or tropes, that's fine. That's how lots of creatives, lots of photographers grow. You know, sometimes you really find your own style by trying all these trends and tropes, and you see what's the common theme, and that's your style. You know, and it's just so the thing is, it's okay to try these photography trends. It's okay to be inspired off of them. What is not okay is that when you pass off these things as your unique concept, your unique idea, you came up with it, because you didn't. You might even be the first person in Singapore to do it. But that doesn't mean you have ownership over that idea. You know, it needs to be a lot more thought out, a lot more developed, and you're going to need to do it a lot more and put your work out there for people to see and understand that, oh yeah, you know, like for them to just make the connection between this visual thing you're trying to represent and who you are. That's part of branding and marketing. Just because you came up with it doesn't mean that it's 100% yours either, because there are going to be people who are going to be inspired off of this idea, and sometimes they may or may not like credit you, you know. So it's up to you as an artist to kind of like really stamp out your identity. That's pretty much the battle of like being an artist. You need to stamp out and carve out your identity for other people to see. Is plagiarism all right? No, it's not. But in those two situations that I talked about and brought up, it's really a case of your work, your concept just isn't that unique. And I really feel bad for these people, because sometimes like I know it's hard being an artist, especially here in Singapore. It's really not easy. Okay, all of us are trying to stamp out and carve out an identity for ourselves. It's just that it takes a lot more work than we think, especially when we are just starting out. You know, when I was starting out, I was like, wow, fuck, I've been doing this for so long. I do all these like jobs and all that. Like, why am I not recognized? That kind of thing, you know. And the harder I work and the more I achieve, the more I kind of know or learn or find out that I need to work a lot harder. You know, it's kind of like you don't know how big the gap is and how much further you have to go until you like, I don't know, like walk a mile in that direction, I guess. Like I can't come up with an inspirational quote for this, but it's sort of like the more you learn, the more you realize, the less you know kind of situation. Except it's about hard work. It's like the more you work, the more you realize how much more work you have to do, I guess. And so like okay, and this kind of like still is like just the photography trend part, right? When it comes to tropes, right? There's so many artists that like kind of, I don't know whether maybe it's really a Singapore thing or what, because a lot of times like we one template, you know, we 10-year series, how we do things kind of thing. So I see a lot of artists inspired off of Wong Kar-wai or Andy Warhol, and they just follow that template of how to do that, and they're like, yeah, this is it. This is my unique identity that I took the template from another artist, you know, but I'm passing it off as my own. This is my unique identity. So I won't say that is plagiarism, but I don't know. For me, this is just my personal opinion. Okay, I feel a bit bad for artists to do that, because again, tropes and trends are great exercises for creatives to do. But if they're trying to pass it off as like their own style and they're trying to like act like it's super unique or whatever, it's really like, it's not okay. Like, I guess how I feel about these things is that we shouldn't be doing our work and like putting it on such a high pedestal of like this is this precious idea or concept that I came up with, and I'm gonna like be rich and famous with this unique concept I came up with, like, you know, because I think that it's not about one unique concept, you know, it's about like thousands. It's about like a consistent effort of trying to hone your craft, trying to get better, trying to do work, trying to push out the work, and really and really just keep at it. And I feel that like, so for me, I'm someone who like used to do sports. Okay, I have a coaching cert in like parkour, and I did sports management in the past. And one thing that sports has kind of brought to me is like the mindset of training. And I kind of look at my artwork as a training process as well, you know, because I feel that it's not about, so okay, this is just sports analogy. Okay, I used to like play rugby as well, right? It's not about like the games that you go for and like every time you play a game of rugby or whatever and like you do well, whatever. No, most of the time it's about the hours you put into the training to get better, so that when you go for a game you can do well at a game. And I feel the same way about my photography. Okay, before this whole virus thing hit, I was shooting like twice a week minimum, at least once a week. Sometimes I push it to 3 to 4 times a week, you know, and I didn't feel overworked or whatever. I really like enjoyed the process. I enjoyed to go and shoot. And some of the shoots are a hit, some of the shoots are a miss. But it's okay, because what mattered was that you put in the time to create the work, meet the people, which really helps out with your networking, okay, and put your work out there. And that is what creates your branding and your presence as an artist. It's not about the unique concepts. It's about the consistency of how you put out your work. I guess I wanted to talk about this because I've heard a few other creatives from other scenes, you know, some of them are from thrifting scene or from like design or the illustration scene, talk about this whole like copying, like, oh, this person copied my idea, or like this person accused me of copying someone else's idea. And I just think that we should not hold these things to be super sacred, and we should just concentrate and focus on getting better. And like if someone copies me, yeah, sure, I would probably be annoyed, but this is what I learned from enemy. Okay, if you're trying to fight an enemy that like can copy your moves, right, what you gotta do is you get better, or you do something that they cannot fucking copy. And what I've seen that people can't copy is the sheer fucking consistency of which I upload and put out my work. You know, like, yeah, if they copy like 3 shoots and I only do 3 shoots in a month, I'm gonna feel shitty about that. But if you copy 3 shoots and I'm doing like 20 a month, I'm like, fuck, you can just take it, you know, like fuck it, you know, whatever. So I just want to tell people that like it takes a lot more work, and there's just no shortcuts around it. Okay, and like let's just try to be nice, because the creative community is really small over here, and if you're a dick to people, people know, you know. So yeah, anyway, I hope this video helped. Thanks for watching. If you just like the video, leave a comment, let me know what other things you want me to talk about. Anyway, thanks guys, bye.